Hey everyone, my name is Aishah McCoy. I am a family law attorney and wills and trust attorney here in Austin. I own a family-centered practice here in town. I've been practicing in Travis County and the surrounding areas for almost 12 years now. I'm also a single mother and an amateur boxer. So our team has the wherewithal to handle even the most high conflict matters. But what we really specialize in is ushering families into new expressions of their relationships in a very healthy way. Today, I am joined by my colleague, Brandy Unger, and I will have her introduce herself before we discuss our agenda for today.
Hi, I'm Brandy Unger. I'm a national board certified and licensed professional counselor with a private practice in Bee Cave, Texas. I've worked in mental health in the legal system for the last 11 years. And in my private practice, I like to take a holistic approach to therapy. I offer counseling to individuals 13 and up, couples, and families. And for the purposes of this discussion, I specialize in working with high conflict couples, couples that are considering a divorce, couples that are in the process of divorcing and want to have a healthy transition to the next phase of their life.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandy. So, the purpose of this seminar is to provide some general information to the community about divorce. We will be hosting, for now, virtual monthly seminars about specific topics related to divorce. This month, we'll be discussing tips on how to transition in divorce when you're going through a divorce in a healthy and happy way. And we're going to discuss this from a legal as well as a therapeutic standpoint. But today we will give you an overview of the approaches to divorce, the different types of therapy that are available to you guys, as well as the different types of legal processes that are involved in divorce. We'll also discuss the common issues that we see, and Brandy is going to provide some tips on self care while you're going through the process. We really hope that these seminars are a way to form a community amongst the participants, and we hope you all come back and connect with each other. I've watched what my own clients have gone through, and from someone myself who has gone through this emotionally turbulent process, I can say that it can be a very isolating experience. So we formed this group to connect and show support for each other through this shared experience. So now that we've introduced ourselves and discussed the purpose of the seminar, I'm going to pass this on to Brandy, where she's going to discuss some of the approaches to divorce and some caveats when it comes to transitioning in a healthy way.
So, one caveat to this whole discussion is in the context of domestic violence or a highly dysfunctional relationship or anything that safety is a concern to you. What we're going to say, for the most part, would not apply in those situations. It may be important where safety is a concern to cut ties from a spouse. And I will say, if you're experiencing any kind of domestic violence or safety issues, it would still be important to speak with an attorney and a therapist, but the approach is going to be a lot different on how to proceed. So for the purposes of transitioning to a healthy divorce, one thing I like to tackle with clients when they first come in is there's this old approach to divorce and like limiting negative beliefs around it that if you're getting a divorce, it's a bad thing and you somehow failed as an individual or in your relationship. And I'm here to tell you it does not have to be that way. I like to reframe this with my clients. You know, it's two adults that have realized you've just outgrown each other and you both realize you would be happier apart. And that's actually a strength. And just because you're divorced doesn't mean that it's the end of your family unit. A lot of my clients have successfully transitioned into great co-parenting and family relationships after divorce. Now, having said that, regardless, going through the experience, you're still going to experience a range of emotions throughout the process of divorce and then transitioning into your new life after divorce. And a lot of clients will ask me, how long is it going to take for me to feel normal again, or for life to be different? And I always tell people, just in my experience, post divorce, it takes about 1 to 2 years to transition and get used to your new normal. And that gives you the time to kind of take a step away from the dating world sometimes and look at yourself and do some reflecting and learn who you are as an individual now that you're not married and what you want your life to look like going forward. In terms of the type of counseling that's available to anyone going through a divorce, there's individual therapy, and that therapy has helped a lot of people through the end of the marriage. It doesn't have to last for months, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. I just find with a lot of clients, it's helpful to talk to a neutral person about the feelings you have and what you're going through, and it helps you regulate emotions that come out throughout the divorce process. Family sessions with your children, with yourself, with your ex-spouse can be very helpful in terms of how to present information to your kids, how to successfully co-parent together. Couples therapy, if you're unsure if you want to get divorced, I always say go to couples therapy first before you go to an attorney and see if you can work things out, and if that's really what you want to do. If a couple chooses to go to a therapist together, you can work on anything you want to resolve. You can also utilize the therapist to act as a type of mediator to help set up guidelines to ensure minimal hostility and emotional damage. Therapists can help resolve other issues like living arrangements, financial obligations, and parenting responsibilities. And a caveat to that is we're not attorneys, so we're not giving you legal advice, but we're helping you deal with the emotional component of having to have some of these very heavy discussions. Child therapy. In cases where children are involved, it's extremely important to take them to therapy. During a divorce, parents are consumed with their own feelings, and the children's emotional state is often overlooked. Supporting evidence shows that children of divorcing parents tend to experience loss, guilt, hurt, pain, abandonment, and overwhelming confusion. The children worry that sometimes that they're the cause of the divorce and are torn in their loyalty between both parents. In a case that parents are aggressive with each other, children can tend to develop a fear that that they are to blame for like the disharmony in their relationship with their parents. And I'll say a lot more later about children in the session and how therapy can be helpful to them. There are several different types of therapists you can go to. There's a licensed professional counselor. There's a licensed marriage and family therapist. There's co-parenting counselors, parent coordinators. I would just say that the most important thing is to make sure the therapist is the right fit for you. For therapy to be successful, it's vital that you feel comfortable with the therapist and you can have an open and honest dialogue with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brandy, for discussing the types of therapy that divorcing couples can go through. Now that you've talked about the different types of therapy, what I'll go ahead and do is talk about the different types of processes that are available to you in divorce. So the most common one that comes to mind is litigation. The litigation process is where the court decides what the resolution is going to be to these family issues. I generally recommend litigation for cases that have escalated to the level of abuse or imminent harm, where imminent harm will be inflicted by one of the parties. Our practice typically reserves this approach for very high conflict issues. I personally feel that the court system is just not a good place to resolve these family issues. Our court system was meant to provide restitution or to be punitive or to punish an individual. That's the type of relief that the court system was reserved for. Furthermore, parties are entrusting a judge or a jury, someone who has no background of your family history or your family dynamic, nor are they privy to what the parties actually need. And so these folks, the judges and the juries, they're basing their decisions on what they hear from their lawyers within a few hours. And these are decisions that will potentially impact these parties and their children for a lifetime. So now that I've discussed the litigation approach, in contrast, let's shift over to the collaborative approach. The collaborative approach allows the parties to make a decision about how and what they want their future to look like. Collaborative law involves a series of sessions with trained collaborative law professionals. The sessions are typically led by a therapist that tries to facilitate an agreement and offer assistance from a therapeutic perspective. There's usually also a financial advisor in attendance that helps the couples make informed decisions about their assets and cash flow. But these two professionals, the financial advisor and the therapist, they're neutral parties throughout the process. But know that both parties have lawyers that are available to advocate for the parties. But the approach is a bit different than litigation. It's not adversarial. It's much more team focused, with the common goal of dissolving the marriage in an amenable way. So there's also a third approach that involves a hybrid of the two, litigation and collaborative, and that's the approach that our office typically employs when we go through our cases. While with the hybrid approach, while there may not be a series of sessions like there is in collaborative, the issues can still be resolved out of court through mediation. Mediation involves a neutral third party, typically an experienced family law attorney or a family law judge, who works to facilitate an agreement that's amenable between the parties. This typically involves a half day or a day-long session and the agreement is eventually translated into a final decree or order. But so litigation, though, is still an option in case things escalate to the point where an immediate resolution is necessary and an agreement is completely unworkable. Now, issues involving domestic abuse or family violence are issues that are typically litigated. But in practice, most of my cases are resolved via mediation. It's definitely the least costly out of the approaches, as it requires less time on the attorney's part. So generally speaking, the more the parties can agree to the terms of their divorce, the less work that the attorneys have to do in order to reach a resolution. So our office always tries to see if we can settle or work on an agreement between the two parties. Now that I've discussed the different approaches to a divorce, I'll have Brandi discuss the top concerns that she sees within individuals who are going through the divorce process and in her practice. You're welcome to take it over, Brandi.
So the top concerns that I typically see in therapy for individuals going through a divorce, it has a lot to do with processing the feelings around the divorce. And it's common to feel fear and anxiety. People, want to know what's going to happen legally. What is the process going to be like when I'm in it? What will my life look like during and after the process? Other common feelings are guilt, sadness, depression, grief. There's also comes a point where we deal with anger, blame, shame, resentment, and just the shock of how this can manifest in a negative way in your divorce proceedings. If you don't deal with it, it can blow up all negotiations, for lack of a better term. So that's why it's always good to have a therapist come in so you can kind of vent and process some of the anger and the harder issues. Likewise, there's a lot of anxiety about the unknown. I receive a lot of calls from individuals who are thinking about divorce, um, and seeking consultation with a family law attorney will help you discuss your options and give you an overview of exactly what to expect out of the process. And this knowledge helps to minimize the anxiety. Um, Child-related issues, that's probably the number one if the couple's dealing with divorce. Married couples with children have two roles, that of a spouse and that of parents. Divorce ends the role of spouses. However, the role of parents ought to be preserved for children to get the best their parents have to give. And it's difficult because in these legal situations, parents are almost pitted against each other. And then when it's over, you're expected to just go back to co-parenting happily as if none of this ever happened. So investing in a therapist can help with that post-divorce parenting relationship and give your children the best opportunity to thrive.
Right. And Brandy, just to piggyback on your point on how important it is to nurture this co-parenting relationship. Earlier, I mentioned how the collaborative or hybrid approach helps maintain this co-parenting relationship. Parents with their respective attorneys can work together to put together a parenting plan that helps support these joint decisions. Parents get a say so and how they want their visitation schedules to look like, which extracurriculars to enroll their kids in, and just other decisions related to the children. So tell us a little bit, Brandy, about the concept of like the good parent and the bad parent.
So the concept of good parent versus bad parent in the context of therapy, we always want to look at it from neutralizing the concept of a good parent versus a bad parent. And as therapists, we can help educate parents about the consequences of communicating in that type of way, help them set boundaries related to what information you want to share with your kids, and then also kind of rehearse like what you can actually say to your kids and kind of influence what the narrative is going to look like with the parents together. It's definitely important to teach the parents to separate their own feelings from their children's feelings regarding the other parent and help them try to see things from the kid's perspective. And for the kids, therapists can help them see their parents in broader terms and not what is painted as good and bad. It's also important for parents to be aware that there are times in divorce where your children are going to step in and try to caretake you. So it's important to kind of keep them out of the middle and out of the caretaking role. Therapists can help clarify those boundaries around the child's role in the family. We can educate parents regarding the roles and responsibilities in the family. We can facilitate dialogues between parents and children, so the likelihood of parentification or triangulating the child is reduced significantly.
Excellent. And just to echo Brandy's point on how important it is to keep the children out of it as much as possible. I mean, just know that anger, pain, and frustration are inevitable, but also know that many counties, including Travis County, has a standing order or a set of rules that the must follow once the petition for divorce has been filed. And that standing order, and well, the one in Travis County specifically prohibits the parties from speaking poorly about the other parent or talking about the divorce openly in the presence of their children. So just please know that this type of behavior can actually have an adverse effect on your case. So, Brandi, how do we talk to our kids about divorce?
Well, I always tell all my parents, it's okay to tell your kids, I don't know, or I need to think about it before you answer a question. I think just the gut reaction as a parent is to give them information and kind of fill in the silence with the explanation. But taking time away to actually process what the question is and telling them, I'm going to get back to you, can be really healthy for both the parents and the child, because the parents can come together and decide, again, what information they want to share. And in the context of having a therapist, a lot of parents will come into the session and we'll go over common questions that kids ask, and scenarios that divorcing parents face with their kids, and help them prepare for how to respond.
So tell us, how can a therapist help the parties as individuals?
So when I have an individual come in, that's starting this process or in the process, um, they can gain a rational perspective of what they're actually going through. And we can also come up with goals, for that person throughout the process, personal, goals that they want to achieve in terms of co-parenting, and kind of plan for their future. We can also teach them the necessary skills to handle the time that they're going through, because it can be very challenging. There's a lot of processing and letting go of negative emotions. I can help individuals gain a better understanding of the dynamics that got them to this point in their divorce. We can assess old patterns and habits that can be beneficial or unbeneficial to future relationships. I spend a lot of time helping parents, teaching them how to help their kids. You can learn better communication skills with your ex-spouse, gain coping skills, and then also, most importantly, explore and create the future you want for yourself after this process.
Excellent. Those are some really helpful things that so specifically my clients can take with them when they go through therapy. And so now that we've discussed, or Brandy has discussed, how therapists can help you, I'll go ahead and discuss how a family law attorney can help you through this process. Well, first of all, it helps you navigate through the court process. The family law attorney can also protect your interests and save time and possibly money going forward. It also avoids you from feeling like you're being bullied by the other side. It gives you that peace of mind and assurance that your case will be handled in an efficient manner. But the other advantage of having a family law attorney is that a good family law attorney will help preserve the goals of the parties and yet advocate for what you want your life to look like once the divorce is over. So, Brandy, tell us a little bit about the types of self-care, strategies for self-care when one is going through the divorce process.
So some of these might seem obvious, but I think that they're important to note. The first is reach out for support, whether that's through a therapist or a good friend or a family member. Support is going to be vital to self-care through the divorce process. Eat well and exercise. Allow yourself time to grieve. Practice self-compassion and give yourself grace. This is a major life transition. Make time for yourself. Take care of your health. Practice mindfulness. Find new habits or hobbies, to kind of distract yourself and give yourself a breather from the process. I tell a lot of my clients, try not to obsess. And if you're going to obsess, save it for the therapy session so we can work through it together. Expect special days, birthdays, and holidays to be difficult. Don't live in denial. If you're a parent, work on your co-parenting relationship. Be aware of self-destructive behavior and possible abuse of substances, because a lot of people will turn to that as a coping strategy through difficult life transitions. And know the signs of a problem. If you recognize red flags, seek help from a physician or a therapist.
Excellent. And another thing that one could do to practice self-care through divorce is just to find a support network. There will be a sign-up list for folks who want to connect with each other, whether it's in person or virtually. But please, please, please don't be afraid to lean on your inner circle for emotional support. But definitely keep the discussions regarding specifics about your case with your lawyer, and seek the help of a therapist if you feel like your emotions are starting to escalate. These professionals will be the most equipped to handle these elevated issues.
And I'll say any kind of change takes time. Be kind to yourself throughout the process. Divorce is never easy, but you can make it through this transition. Take care of yourself, love yourself, and look ahead to a new future.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining our session. Marriage really is, I always say that marriage really is the ability to come together over and over again. But know that it's okay when you both find yourselves in the position of not being able to work together. Know that there's support for you out there. So now what we'll do is we'll open up our session for your questions. Please feel free to send us a chat if you would like to be included in the list of folks who would like to connect for support as you guys go through the divorce process. Again, my name is Aishah McCoy.
And I'm Brandy Unger.
And sounds like we may not have any questions. So we'll go ahead and end our session. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be in touch. Just follow my handle, A McCoy at Law, on Instagram, the Law Office of Aishah McCoy on Facebook, to receive updates on when our next seminar will take place. So thank you so much, everyone. Take care.